Watch Ernie, go, go, go. Car right, car right, car right, car right. Watch him, watch him, watch him, watch him. Damn it! Get ready. Dude, more heads up than that. Jeez.
Right on the back wing. Can he make it happen?
Yeah! Yeah! Push like hell. We gotta stay in front of these guys.
Both drivers on the push to pass. Contact in the pit lane.
All right, 60. Let that eagle fly. What do I do? What happened? Push here. Push hard. Let's go get this guy. Car outside. Room behind you. Intel. Clear outside. Good job. Just spun behind you. I don't know if you got him or not.
He got out of it so hard. Look at these guys are all over the back.
Full throttle.
IndyCar.
In and out lap.
What's next?
Come and get the checkers, big boy. Oh, baby, that was good. He hit me. Inside, inside, outside, inside, outside.
2017 Verizon IndyCar Series. See what's next.
Welcome to an August bank holiday weekend and welcome to Friday night prime time here on RaceSpot TV, streaming live on iRacing Live. And today we head ourselves over to Sebring International Raceway and to the Pro Mazda Championship for 15 laps worth of racing. We've got 16 drivers in the field today. They are currently completing their qualifying as we say, 15 laps is what we'll be doing here today on a track that does promote drafting, does promote overtaking, and a track that actually today is pretty nice in the air. 77 degrees Fahrenheit, 40% humidity, a little breeze in the air of 3 kilometers an hour. Track length is just a tad over 3.5 miles. As well, Connery IndyCar use this, of course, as their test track, Sebring. For the Pro Mazda, it's the kind of the GP3 of the IndyCar series in many ways. For drivers, they would have seen this track before, of course, and this is a track that if you can nail, you can pretty much nail anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to bring you back to what you mentioned there. It's a fantastic track for overtaking. There's so many heavy braking zones around this track. And as you say, drafting along these big straights, especially the Oldman back straight, just allows cars to get alongside coming into Sunset Bend and make any opportunity happen. But meanwhile, out there on track is currently Frederick Evers, who has the provisional pole position by 0.2 of a second over the #1 machine of Marcus Hamilton.
Yeah, and what you want to do is you want to keep an eye out on Gabriel Perez, because he currently leads the championship overall. Of course, most iRacing series are 12-week series. This is one of them, and currently Gabriel Perez has 1,105 points from the 8 weeks he has had counted towards his championship. He has currently scored 7th place in this event today. What we don't see, of course, is the driver who... Actually, we do see the driver who is in 2nd place in the championship. He is currently qualified in 3rd place. That is the driver of Margin Onuldas, and he's only 2 points back in terms of the championship. So, a bad result here today for Perez could swing the balance of that championship in favour with only 1 round to go after this.
Yeah, it's really surprising to see the points in an iRacing Championship this close after so many weeks, and now it's go time for both of those drivers coming into the final weeks of the season to try and get the best results they can. Martin, right now in qualifying, is doing all that he needs to do right now, finishing quite a couple of positions ahead of Gabriel Perez, but that can all change in the race, as actually his lap times are also much faster than Perez's at the moment. Perez really needs to step up his game if he wants to hold on to that championship.
But maybe he's thought about the race rather than qualifying. And again, you go into that championship mindset. And of course, I remember a couple of years ago, back in the iRacing IndyCar series, we had a number of championships come down to the last race of the season. Anyone who remembers the 2009 Homestead Miami Speedway 300 from IndyCar will remember, in fact, even 2010 as well, you don't have to win a race to win a championship, but you must place well and place above your rivals. And sometimes it's that mindset that comes in. Pole positions don't mean everything. It's keeping your car clean and being methodical in the race.
Yeah, exactly. There's no point in winning a couple of races if in all of the other races you are finishing down the field as a result of incidents or getting in over your head. Consistent finishes are rewarded very favorably with championship points, and in no way is that more true than in these iRacing series right here. So we are coming towards the end of qualifying right now. That 8 minutes is going to elapse right now. Everyone has set a qualifying time. It's time to head to the grid.
Indeed so. So let's do so then. Round number 11 of the Pro Mazda Championship here on Racebot TV and on iRacing Live. And today it will be the driver of Frederick Evers qualifying himself on pole position. 1 minute 56.478. Margin Onuldas in 2nd place. 1 minute 56.697. Marcus Hamilton in 3rd place. Then Daniel Berschen there in P number 4. Good to note, 4 different clubs represented inside your top 4 drivers. Cycle this one back on. You got yourself Renat Saturov there in P number 5. Omar Sato Jr. in P number 6. 6 different clubs represented in your top 3 rows, Connery.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see the diversity in the field when it comes to this whole iRacing service. You can race with drivers from the United States, you can from France, all over the world, all come together for the joy of racing. It's absolutely great to see as the drivers start to take themselves towards the grid right now. And, well, I just can't wait to get this race started with all the side-by-side action we'll see, especially coming down into that very wide open turn number 1. You can get 3, 4, 5 cars wide coming down into there. It's not really recommended, Will, but it can be a little bit scary.
And also, you know what the fun thing about today's race is? Take a guess.
What is that, Will?
Marco Asidiakono. Boom!
Oh my god. He's here.
He is. P number 12. There you can see the grid then. They are lining up there, getting themselves ready to go for 15 laps worth of racing. So happy late August bank holiday weekend to those in the United Kingdom, those around the world who, of course, have this weekend off, a long weekend. We're glad to have you here on Racebot TV and on iRacing Live. We're going to have 2 fantastic races, 3 fantastic races, 4 fantastic races for you this coming Sunday. But tonight, it's all about prime time. Drivers are lined up on the starting grid then. Let's get them going. 15 laps. Sebring, fresh from Florida, we are green as the cars come down in towards turn number 1 for the first time. Number 1 machine, very good start there by Marcus Hamilton, going to make it free ride on the outside in towards turn number 1, and they almost come together. P number 1, P number 2 sliding, slide drop through turn number 1. They make it through for the first couple of corners. Now it's a case of, can they settle it down in towards what is really a funnel through turn number 2, 3 and 4? The answer to that question is they will do for the moment, but Marcus Hamilton now leads this motor race after qualifying in that 3rd position.
Yeah, from P number 3 into P number 1, and also Frederick Evers may lose yet another position to Onuldas here coming down under the Mobile 1 bridge there, and he's actually going to take that position, and he may lose another one here to Omar Sato Jr. into the right-hander, battling behind them as well between your championship leader Perez and Daniel Berggrensen as well, but they're going to get single file for now. Yeah,
on board then with the driver of Marco Asidiakono, currently in the 7th place. looking down to the inside of the driver of Daniel Burrison, and he will make that move stick. No, actually he won't. Now this is an interesting quirk, and actually Asidio Kono does on the exit of that corner. An interesting quirk about this racetrack is that the outside line does work into a lot of these corners. They're 90 degrees, they're wide, and that means that you can take multiple lines through here, as we now got a battle going on with Frederick Evers really getting onto the gearbox, and he's going to go past Omo Sato Jr. for P number 4.
Or is he? As Omo Sato Jr. holds the inside line coming through this right-hander here, and he's going to hold the position, in fact, coming into the Le Mans corner, which is one of those places where you can take that much wider line on entry and just carry all the momentum through onto the corner, onto the old man straight, and that could be very, very important, especially if you're Gabriel Perez right now trying to look for the move coming into Sunset Bend on Evers.
Yeah, on board then with Evers on the left-hand side. There is the driver of Gabriel Perez. And Perez takes the inside line, gets bulked a little bit actually by the driver of Omar Soto Jr. through Sunset Bend. Evers just runs into the rear of Gabriel Perez on corner exit. And Sunset Bend actually is one of those corners where we always say there's a million different lines through there, but who knows which one is going to be the fastest. Lap number 1 then, scored complete here at Sebring. You can find live timing and scoring. Just visit racespot.tv/timing. Number 7 machine of Gabriel Perez running a little bit wide through turn at number 1. Now going to be side by side for a moment with Frederick Evers and Marco Asidio Kono already up into P number 6 and hunting down Frederick Evers.
That's a net gain of 6 positions in about 1.25 laps there for Asidio Kono. Absolutely fantastic stuff. As he looks for one more down the inside of your pole position set of Frederick Evers, coming down into the hairpin. Not going to make the move, quite stuck here, but also he's pretty safe from Saturov behind him as well. Saturov had a terrible run off the corner, but here comes another run that Asidio Kono could use, coming down on Frederick Evers down into the inside. It's been a horrible first couple of laps for Evers, from P number 1 down to P number 5.
Yeah, and that's not something we expect from a driver of Frederick Evers' caliber. Just to give you an update on those 2 championship drivers we're talking about, you've got yourself Gabriel Perez on that number 7 machine. He is currently scored in 4th place, so he's moved up 3 places since the start, and Martin Anulias there up 2 places to P number 2 in that number 4 machine. In fact, that's where he started, take that one back, but he's currently running in that 2nd position right now. So lots of little battles going on. All drivers are running, by the way, all drivers within 10 seconds of your race leader.
Yeah, we haven't really seen any major instance so far yet in this race, as pretty much your whole field start to head their way down the Old Man straight for what is the 2nd time over the course of this race, and no moves yet. Looks like at the front coming down into Sunset Bend as they'll file their way through there. Maybe a little bit of a challenge for position down your field though, but between Medema and Andrew Burns, that number 14 machine, looking to make a move here on the 2 cars ahead of him, in fact. But he's going to get a very good run off the corner here, maybe able to pass Medema coming down into turn number 1 as he looks for a gap, and he goes down towards the inside there. Meanwhile, it's battling side by side ahead of them as well between Asidio Kono and Stadrov.
Yeah, and Asidio Kono actually lost a couple of places by the looks of it. Fell back down into P number 7. Frederick Evers was battling out with Renat Stadrov in P number 5 and 6. That was going down in towards that first corner. But out front, Marcus Hamilton, what's up?
Number 10, Stadrov had just a huge moment there coming into the first sector of the lap. Momentarily 3 wide with Berchenra and Ruskin as he tried to recover from that one. But that could have been much, much worse. He manages to recover the car coming through the left-hander right there, but loses 3 positions as a result.
Yeah, and it was on those high curbs down at turn number 4. Those high curbs can often play havoc with the car. And you've got to remember here, actually, Connery, you've got the low curbs in the second part of the racetrack. You want to run them, you want to abuse them, a bit like Imola. The first sector, you don't want to touch those curbs because they're almost sawtooth-like and they will upset the balance, especially of a small, poxy little race car like this.
Yeah, you have to be really, really careful, and Stadrov has now basically learned his lesson there from taking a bit too much curbs in the first sector. Meanwhile, further up your field, battle for P number 4 still going on. Frederick Evers trying to recover from his early race woes. Down the inside, the right-hander here, coming into Le Mans now, still not able to find a gap over your current championship leader, Gabriel Perez. As Perez runs a little bit wide, 2 tires in the grass there. He's going to suffer from a little bit of a momentum loss because of that, but it wasn't really good run off the corner in the first place for Frederick Evers.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you are Gabriel Perez, you've got to have that championship in the back of your mind. You're leading the championship by 2 points coming into the penultimate round. The last thing you want to do is be taken out of the motor race. So for Perez, he gets a poor run actually out of Sunset Bend onto the grass.
That was very, very close. That was inches or if not millimeters away from a race and perhaps championship ending instant there for Gabriel Perez. And it just means that Frederick Evers has just managed to make his way through there. But wow, those are the championship defining moments, just like millimeters away from just throwing it all away.
He did touch the wall as well, actually, on the exit of Sunset Bend. So we need to keep an eye out on the handling of that race car. He's now down into P number 5, falling back about 0.5 of a second from Gabriel Perez. But you're right, it's moments like that that can define a championship. Ask Will Powell, 2010 Cafe do Brasil Indy 300. Just a little touch of the wall and that was it. His race was over. His championship was over. As we've got ourselves Craig Ridley versus Gerald McAvery there, P number 11 and 12 going on. Outside your top number 10, but there's still lots of little battles going on throughout your field. As Omar Soto Jr., it's kind of been quiet in this race so far, actually, Soto Jr. in that number 2 machine. We go on board of him, and he is currently 0.4 of a second back from Anudlis there in the number 4 machine. Currently scored 2nd place in this race, 2nd place in the championship. Soto Jr. does get a better run, though, this time, as they head towards Le Mans corner. Is he going to try and look down to the outside? No. Just hold his line for the time being. And what you then do through the chicane is just wait, bide your time. It's actually a little bit too close, I would argue, getting the dirty air down through Le Mans.
Yeah, you really need that run coming out of Le Mans down the almost straight to have any chance of a pass coming down into turn number 1, as he's going to sit in the slipstream here. Of course, no DRS in these Star Mazdas, and he's going to make the move down the inside coming into Sunset Bend. But as I said, this is one of the corners where you can make multiple lines work, because they dart and dice all over the racetrack trying to find any grip like there in the middle of the corner. But Omar Soto Jr. is just going to come out on top.
Yeah, there's a replay of that one. We were just showing, of course, a replay of the driver we saw earlier on having an incident, and Marco Acidio Kono is turned around as well. This is Soto Jr. then, working himself down to the inside, past the number 4 machine. So there's one pass. We've had 3 incidents all back-to-back. Acidio Kono, loops it there through Sunset Bend, gets a little bit of a tag as well by the number 3 machine, I believe, of Frederick Evers. Another replay then on board with Marco Acidio Kono, number 9 machine, in towards Sunset Bend. We talk about the million lines through that corner, and we actually saw the previous lap with your championship leader just getting loose and actually having to take about 3 or 4 stabs into that corner. Acidio Kono just got loose there on corner entry.
Yeah, and it looks like he may have had a little bit of trouble with the bumps, and this track is pretty much known for being quite a bumpy circuit, and it can just destabilize the car, especially coming through Sunset Bend. And the car behind was Roastgen, actually, and he just really had nowhere to go. As soon as he saw the car ahead of him just getting a slide on, he pretty much just had to just trail on the brakes there, just try to avoid it the best he could, but sometimes contact is inevitable. Yeah,
and something's happened to Omar Soto Jr. We're not sure if this is a technical issue or not. We're going to get ourselves a replay and see what we can find. This is Omar Soto Jr. We believe it might well be technical. We'll find out if we lose the feed in a couple of seconds' time. Yeah, indeed we do then. Omar Soto Jr. then, technical issues for him. He is classified, well, as out of the race right now. That's going to be disappointing. We talked about how he's having a quiet race here today. Worked himself up into P number 2. Now classified as out.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's just one of those things that happens in both sim racing and real life racing, of course. You just, sometimes something happens with the car that's, well, you just really can't control, and it puts an end to your race. As meanwhile, battling side by side for P number 7, this is right now between Daniel Bertrand and Jed McAvery as well. And also Craig Ridley is also going to get himself involved in this one, coming around the outside into the braking zone at Sunset Bend. I think he'll get this pass complete, and in fact, he will. But look at that. All 3 drivers taking completely different lines through Sunset Bend. That's why we absolutely love that corner.
Yeah, we've also got Andrew Burns there just spinning out as a consequence of another driver going for a little bit of an off-road excursion themselves. And that's the thing quite often at this racetrack. It is narrow at points. It's wide at others, but when it does narrow up, you've really got to make sure your line works out for you. As we go back then, Craig Ridley currently in P number 6. You've got yourself Jared McAvery there in the battle as well. Daniel Burenson in that mix as well. They almost come together. They do make a little bit of contact there. Does the number 5 and the number 15 machine. We go on board, though, with Craig Ridley on the exit of turn number 4 through Big Bend up towards the hairpin.
Yeah, but he's not going to be close enough to make a move unless he's very, very brave in that number 15 machine as he looks to where his braking marker is, where the cones are, and gets that car turned into the corner. Meanwhile, Daniel Bergensen, despite that little bit of contact coming through the fifth sector, is gaining steadily back up to these guys after that bit of contact. But also, he has to be concerned about Marco Arcidiacono behind him here, suffering maybe with a little bit of damage to that race car, but he's still back out there and on track, trying to put in some competitive lap times. In fact, he was about 3-4 seconds faster than Bergensen last time by.
Yeah, and Arcidio Kono, of course, has had some issues in this race. He's looped that car around once already in that number 9 machine, currently in 9th. You can just see there. Ridley, thank you very much for coming. I'll have that position now. I'll make that. That's not Ridley, actually. That's Burrison there. It was so quick that move happened. Ridley about 5/10 of a second up the road. And actually, these three drivers have been having a nice battle, but Arcidio Kono, I think, might break it up for the moment. As out front, Marcus Hamilton, away from our screens. Oh, I just saw that Frederick Evers has moved himself up into P number 2. This is down at Sunset Bend. We'll get ourselves a replay of it, but Frederick Evers now up into 2nd place, and I'm not sure whether or not a Noodlist might have had himself a slowdown penalty. We need to get ourselves a look. Or was this just a pure pass around the outside? I think it actually was a pure pass because Frederick Evers went purple on that lap as well. Worked the outside line through Sunset Bend, sets the fastest lap, now up into P number 2.
Yeah, an absolutely storming lap for Evers there. Around about 2/10 of a second, 2-3/10 of a second faster than your race leader right now in Marcus Hamilton. And look at the gap he's pulled out over Martin Oldenus already. Already around about 6/10 of a second is the gap between those two drivers. So Evers absolutely flying despite having quite a few early race woes where he was dropped down to P number 5, P number 6, and he's slowly making his way back up through the field, hopefully getting to that P number 1 spot, but has himself a P number 2 right now. Meanwhile, down through your field, the battle involving Craig Ridley and David McKeever is still going on, but that gap is seen has stayed relatively stagnant. Meanwhile, Arcidio Kono reeling both of them in at a rate of knots.
Yeah, he is. We'll go back on board with him as well. Don't forget, though, we've got ourselves, Connery, now 2nd place in the championship, 1 place ahead of 1st place in the championship. The gap between them is 4/10 of a second. It's less than that, and actually, we've now got ourselves, actually, I'll take that back, Anulius there is right back on the rear of Frederick Evers, so he wants that position back. Gabriel Perez is still in 4th place, so currently there is still 1 position between 2nd place in the championship and 1st place, but Anulius kind of wants that buffer there. He needs that 2nd place, and Anulius does actually have to battle hard compared to Perez because he needs to find those extra points, not only in terms of this race, but in terms of making sure he has the what I call the best drop weeks possible, and this counts towards a race that is in his championship.
Yeah, this is probably the highest strength of field that you're going to get in the Pro Mazda series this season, and he just has to make the most of it. Put cars in between him and Gabriel Perez, take the championship lead going into next week, and then see what he can do coming towards the end of the season then. But still, you just saw how Frederick Evers got him past him so easily around the outside of Sunset Bend, and Aldous has managed to close that gap back in a little bit. Meanwhile, Gabriel Perez is closing in on both of them by about 2/10 of a second a lap. This could be a 3-car fight for P number 2 if the trend continues.
Yeah, and Ridley still battling it out with McCavery there as well. Marco Arcidio Kono still there in the mix. In fact, Arcidio Kono going very wide through turn at number 1. Let's give you then a little bit of RaceSpot TV fan immersion reride on board of the driver of Craig Ridley. Enjoy the fire. Arcidio Kono down to the inside and gets the move done as well. That actually bottlenecks all 4 of these drivers up together, actually. Arcidio Kono, Ridley, Berezin, and Satyrov there, all now on the same piece of real estate, and Satyrov there is trying to make a move as well over Berezin, and he manages to make it stick for the time being.
Yep, side by side between Stadadrov and Berstrand as they head their way through towards the final sector of the lap here, coming down into the brakes into the right-hander before Le Mans, and actually Berenson is going to defend that position there from Stadadrov, but this isn't over yet. Stadadrov gets a huge run coming through Le Mans, a little bit compromised on exit though, but he can sit in the slipstream of the 4 cars ahead of him, but that is going to be negated because Berenson has the draft of the 3 cars ahead of him, so they're going to be relatively stagnant coming down into Sunset Bend. Will we see a dive for Stadadrov? He's going to have a little bit of a look, decides against it though. Yeah, indeed. So on the exit then of the, oh, look at that Sunset Bend, a much better run actually on the outside by Stadadrov as he's now got another run, but I've got a feeling that these guys are kind of topping out in terms of top speed here. Stadadrov, in fact, they are topping out, and that's what hurts a little bit because of the fact that they don't really have anything to work with that overspeed, as Anulius, by the way, has dropped back from the rear of Frederick Evers, but we're going to stick it with this battle going on, P5, 6, 7, 8 in your field for a moment. When we talk about topping out, of course, people got to remember there's only really 2 different gear options for this car, a short gear or a long gear. Yeah, exactly, and at times, especially around this circuit where you're on the throttle so much coming down the long straights, it feels like you need an extra gear coming down the straights here, but of course that isn't a possibility, and these guys just have to deal with it, and it makes passing very, very tricky coming into a heavy braking zone because you're not getting as much overspeed as perhaps you were expecting. Marco Acidio Kono, nothing into this corner, but the track opens up for a minute here. This could be Arcidio Kono's opportunity. The same applying, of course, to Ridley, Berenson, and Zafarov there in this battle as well. Nice little battle going on, actually, down in your mid-pack, as it encapsulates about 5 drivers who have not really put too many wheels wrong. Of course, Arcidio Kono is in P number 7. He qualified poorly, worked his way up, and then had a spin. But the rest of the drivers, good job by them so far this afternoon. As actually, let's go back and have a look at Anulius there versus the driver behind him, interestingly enough. And this is the driver of Gabriel Perez. Last time by, Perez was 4 tenths of a second slower than Anulius as they cross the start-finish line once again. We'll get the lap times up now on your screen, and it's going to be a 156.7 for Anulius there, 156.493 for Gabriel Perez. Perez closes the gap back down to 1.2. Yeah, I think the reason for the slow lap 2 laps ago was because Gabriel Perez had a little bit of an issue getting the traction down coming out of the first sector of the lap, just got a little bit of wheel spin and lost him a couple of tenths of a second. Meanwhile, looking back at this battle for P number 6, 7, 8, and 9, they've been absolutely scrapping it out, especially coming through Sunset Bend. But right now, leading that train is Marco Acidio Kono in that P number 6, again up 6 positions from his start. That's about where he was the first couple of laps of the race before he had his a little bit of a spin in Sunset Bend, so he's on a little bit of recovery drive here. A good run from Brenrinson coming through Big Bend though, and this is going to be a challenge coming down into the hairpin on McAvery. Yeah, indeed so. On board of him. Not yet. Though you can set the hairpin up to get a better run out of this corner, and that's what Berensen's trying to do then. Gap at about 2 tenths of a second, flicks it to the right through Fangio, then to the left. And again, it seems to be that thing, they're all in the draft, they're all topping out at the same time, and Berenson can't do anything just yet. But the 2 drivers behind, actually, Stadadrov and Craig Ridley, have fallen back just a little bit. Yeah, they have, and maybe that was a result of the battling that was on the last lap coming through Sunset Bend. They head their way through turn number 13 called Tower right now, and again, Brenrinson going to not really have the run here, just going to sit in the slipstream and just wondering if he can be in a position to make a move coming down into Sunset Bend. As actually they head their way through turn number 15. Turn number 16 is the turn called Le Mans, and well, he's not quite going to get the run there. McAvery getting a much better run, running a little bit wide though. I think that protects him from the movement down the inside coming into Sunset Bend. Yeah, Marcus Hamilton though goes purple, 156.360. Gap between McAvery and Berenson is currently scored as 3.5 tenths of a second. But McAvery there, very tight there. He turned that car in towards Sunset Bend, and that might cost him a little bit actually on the exit of the corner, because you can see that Berenson is a little bit closer behind. You've got another freeway battle going on. Zadrov's falling down into 10th place right now, but trying to go back down to the inside of Craig Ridley in towards turn number 1. Can he make it work? The answer's going to be, oh yes, he can. Yeah, he got that car slowed down in time because that track exit does come up on you very, very quickly. It's the complete opposite to where you turn in for the corner, where it's so wide. That track just narrows and narrows and narrows, and it's a cause for many, many instances, both in sim racing and in real life, as that track narrows coming in towards turn number 2.
So, away from our screen, Frederick Evers has been able to maintain that second position. However, Frederick Evers has dropped 2 seconds over the last 3.5 laps or so to the driver of Marcus Hamilton. The gap between P1 and P2 is up to 4.5 seconds. You've got to give credit, though, to Frederick Evers, because he clearly set his car to work better in the second half of the race than the first.
Yeah, that definitely seems to be the case. The side-by-side racing between McCavery and Berenson coming down into the right-hander there, and Berenson still not able to make the move over the number 6 driver, and while he is kind of running out of time at this point, currently 4.5 laps to go for these drivers in your midfield right now, and Berenson has put himself in another good position here to challenge coming towards the end of this lap, but he's just really not finding the runs, not finding the gap.
Yeah, we go on board with Daniel Berenson. Once again, if you can get a good run, I should say, turn number 16 is important. A lot of drivers, though, kind of run a little bit wide in turn number 15. It's actually got a sawtooth curb there. It's a better run through 16. And actually, the thing that might help Berenson here is the fact that McCavery won't get a full amount of draft himself. Marcus Hamilton, fastest lap of the race once again. Berenson doesn't do anything in towards Sunset Bend. And again, McCavery just turns inside the corner so early. You always think he's going to hit that inside Armco barrier.
Yeah, and it just comes back to what we were talking about, is drivers prefer different lines coming to the corner, and some of them work basically as equally well as each other. But going back to what you mentioned, he does sacrifice the exit speed coming out the corner, which could be important for a move coming down into turn number 1. He's safe but not for now, but if Berenson is any closer than he was last time by, then that line through the corner just isn't going to work.
So, your top 8 as we enter the last few laps of this motor race are as follows. You've got yourself Marcus Hamilton leading by 4.5 seconds over Frederick Evers. Martin Anudia, second place in the championship. He's in third. He's actually now pulled out a 3 seconds advantage over his championship rival, Gabriel Perez, who leads the championship and runs in 4. Stefan Rugderson right now in P number 5. Marco Asidio Kono in 6th place. Gerard McGarfrey there in P7. And Daniel Berenson rounds out your top 8. 2 retirees so far. Omar Soto Jr., the number 2 machine for technical issues. And we've got ourselves Anne Medina out of the event. That is due to a racing incident here this afternoon. And we can have a look now at the biggest movers in this event so far, and you will notice that Marco Asidio Kono, we've been talking about him. He's up 6, the number 5 car. Berenson turned around there. He loses it by himself down at Tower Corner, Connery.
Yep, the back end just broke away from him mid-corner. His corner entry was okay. He got on the curb a little bit, and maybe there was a little bump in the corner that upset the car as well. But either way, that car is around and now down into what is P number 10 right now. So that's 2 positions lost for Daniel Berenson, and he's not really looking to gain any positions back here, since it is so late on in the race. Only 3 laps to go when he next crosses the line. He could possibly catch Craig Wrigley if Craig Wrigley is absolutely just cruising to the finish. But I think that's probably where he's going to finish now.
Yeah, I would agree with that one. In terms of other movers, of course, Marcus Hamilton up 2 places. Frederick Evers qualified pole position, down 1 spot. Martin Anudia started 2nd, down 1 spot as well. Gabriel Perez up 3 places. Stefan Rugderson up 3 places as well. But the driver we've got to talk about is Marco Asidio Kono. He's driven through the field twice here today. Got to be contender already for driver of the day.
I would definitely say so. Making up 6 positions in what I call just 1 1/4 laps at the start of the race, having the half spin and then just doing it all again. It seems like it's absolutely no problem for Asidio Kono, and if he didn't have the half spin, who knows how far up the field he could have finished.
And there you can see the remainder of those drivers moving up and down through your field. Marcus Hamilton, though, still leads by 4 seconds over Frederick Evers. And Evers versus Anuglius, this one is still going on, and I think Anuglius is just not letting Evers get away. He knows he's now got a full second advantage over his championship rivals. He runs wide actually on the exit of Tower Corner, but he has, I would argue, maybe got one opportunity if he closes back up on that final lap to do a sneak.
Yeah, I'd say so as well. But even last time by, he was around about a 1/10 of a second slower than Frederick Evers that last time by. So it's very, very, shall we say, it's going to be a huge lap for Arnoldus to catch back up to make a move on the final lap of this motor race. And, well, let's see if he has it in him. Meanwhile, the other battles going on track are Arcidiacono versus McCavery. That one's still going on as well as the one between, what is the number 13 machine of David Benaldot and Andrew Burns.
Well, we don't often talk about battles that go on outside the top 10 in a small field like this, but this is a nice little scrap going on for P11, P12. They're both what we classify as low I-rated drivers as well, so they both, you know, are, I wouldn't say the weakest drivers in the field, but they are the lowest I-rated drivers in terms of this 16-car field. They're ranked number 13 and 14, and actually, in this case, Andrew Burns making that pass, and they're turned around almost there. Contact between the two of them.
Yeah, wheel-to-wheel contact, and actually Bendelot is actually going to spin on the almost the exit of Sunset Bend right there, not able to keep that car through the slide right there, and that's not really what we want to see on the entry coming into Sunset Bend. A little bit wheel-to-wheel contact it was. I have to wonder if there's suspension damage to either of those two cars there, but that has just ruined that battle just for now, as actually McCavery is just going to go around and into the grass after Sector 1.
Yep, so let's have a replay then on board of him. He got himself loose over the bumps through turn number 1, upset the car a little bit, but didn't go into the grass. This is turn number 2. You can see the bumps really affecting these race cars. We're on lap number 14 or 15 here. And what really happened is, that car is rotating all the way through turn number 4. Then it kind of touched the curb, and it hadn't really straightened out at all for that sequence. And the tyres are like, you know what? I've had enough. I'm going off for a T-brake now.
Yeah, but it's another victim of those very high curbs coming through the first sector, and yeah, anything that upsets these cars tends to just spin them around if they're not settled, and it's exactly what has happened there. But again, coming into the final couple of laps of this race, Craig Ridley versus Berenson is still on, and it looks to be one of the only battles still going on right now. But meanwhile, McCavery still now has to get past Andrew Burns, who was involved in that incident we saw just moments ago. Yeah, and Andrew Burns doesn't seem to have as much substantial damage in terms of his suspension as we did for the driver of David Bendelot. And of course, what I was trying to say earlier on is that for a driver who's got the number 14 car on him, will generally have, you know, one of the lowest I ratings in the field, and that could actually mean that even if they finish inside the top 10, they might gain a couple of I rating points here and there. Yeah, usually if your number's in the middle of the field, finishing top half will usually get you a net gain. If you're one of the lowest I-rating drivers in the field, and depending who finishes below you, if a couple of low-numbered people finish behind you, then you could be on track to gain a couple of I-rating points, even though you didn't finish in the top half of the field. Here comes the run with Ben Rinson, the number 5 machine, over what is going to be Craig Ridley coming down into turn number 1. This is the final lap right here. White flag is out on the starter's stand, and this is the last-ditch attempt for Ben Rinson. Yeah, here he comes then into turn number 2, backs out of it. Might try and do a run through turn number 6, out of Big Ben towards a hairpin, but this is now last chance saloon for Berryson. Goes a little bit wide, but Craig Ridley has a worse corner through turn number 4, through Big Ben they come then. Right now, that long sweeping corner, Berryson does get the draft. He gets a toe, moves himself down to the outside, and will get himself the outside line. Can he get the position? Overshoots the corner. Answer's going to be no. Nothing's really going to happen, although they'll go side by side again for the moment as they now work themselves through Fangio down in towards Cunningham corner. Berryson to driver on the left-hand side of your screen. On your right-hand side, you got yourself the driver of Craig Ridley. Last chance then for Berryson, and he moves himself out, breaks himself, and gets himself that position done. Well done there for Berryson. Last couple of corners of the motor race, but for Marcus Hamilton, front of your field, Club UK and Ireland, in towards Sunset Bend for the final time. Has not put a foot wrong all race long. Starting in third place was in P number 1 by turn number 1. Fantastic then use of that clutch to get himself towards the front of the field. Marcus Hamilton has not looked back. He wins here. Round number 11 of Friday Night Primetime Pro Mazda Championship. Frederick Evers in second place, and Martin Anusius there comes from in third. You got yourself his championship rival, Gabriel Perez, coming home in fourth, and Stefan Roskin rounding out your top 5 right about now. Connery. Yeah, overall, it was a very, very solid race for Marcus Hamilton. Gained those 2 positions on the start, coming down into turn number 1, and then he basically just checked out. Goodbye, I'm taking this race win as the rest of the runners come across the line. Daniel Berenson is going to get a P at number 8 is all is said and done. Not a great race for him, losing 4 positions on his qualifying position, but overall, throughout the field, it has been some great battling.
Watch Ernie, go, go, go. Car right, car right, car right, car right. Watch him, watch him, watch him. Damn it! Get ready. Dude, more heads up than that. Jeez.
Right on the back wing. Can he make it happen?
Push like hell. We gotta stay in front of these guys.
Both drivers on the push to pass. Contact in the pit lane.
All right, sexy. Let that eagle fly. What do I do? What happened? Push here. Push hard. Let's go get this guy. Car outside. Through behind you. Control. Clear outside. Good job. Just spun behind you. I don't know if you got him or not.
He got out of it so hard. Look at these guys are all over the back.
Full throttle.
IndyCar.
He hit an outlap.
What's next?
Come and get the checkers, big boy. Oh, baby, that was good. He hit me. Inside, inside, outside, inside, outside.
2017 Verizon IndyCar Series. See what's next.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next round of the Verizon IndyCar Series is, get this, the Bommarito Automotive Group 500 from Gateway Motorsports Park. Catch it on the NBC Sports Network at 9 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow night. Of course, streaming live also on IndyCar Radio. Presented by Advanced Auto Parts, because that way I won't get fired. This is what I loved about this race, Connery. We had ourselves 8 different nationalities inside of the top 10 here this evening. And I would argue more importantly, you know, we had ourselves the top, let me just get this right, top 7 drivers, 7 different clubs.
Yeah, and it just goes to show, like I mentioned at the start of the race, how diverse iRacing is in terms of the well, I would say player base and the people that use the service from all over the world, and you can race with them here on iRacing, and well, you usually won't have any problems, and it'll be absolutely fun.
Right, you ready for your recap of the weekend stuff here, Connery?
We have a lot going on the weekend, but go ahead, Will.
We have. Here we go. Here, ladies and gentlemen, this weekend on RaceSpot TV and on iRacing Live, we have got ourselves a full slate's worth of action. We start off with the VLN Endurance Championship round number 6, of course, from the legendary Nürburgring. That is at 2 p.m. GMT tomorrow. And then, on prime time, we've got a Fight Like a Girl 200 at Homestead Miami Speedway. Over to Sunday, we've got ourselves the iRacing Grand Prix Series. That will be at 2 p.m. GMT, followed by round number 9 of the Classic IndyCar Series. That will be at 6 p.m. GMT, and that will be from Sonoma Raceway. Fantastic championship battle heating up there. You've also got yourself V8 Super Truck Series at Watkins Glen. And then, of course, to round out your Sunday night, you've got yourself the Skip Barber 2K World Cup from Oran Park at 8 p.m. GMT. Finally, you've got yourself your Monday night bank holiday edition of Monday Night Skippies, also from Oran Park in support of the Calm Zone a male mental health charity. That will be Monday Night Skippies, UK and Ireland style, 8 p.m. on Monday, the 28th of August. Well, that's what we've got to come, Connery, but it's almost time for us to say goodbye here from Sebring. Connery?
Yes, I'm here, and well, it was a great race, and we're looking forward to the many great races that we have on the weekend, and also to come with the small issue, the very small issue of McLaren.
Yes, World's Fastest Gamer, of course, is coming your way to Racebot TV in 4 weeks' time. Less than that, 3 weeks' time now until World's Fastest Gamer. We've also got the Chase and the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series coming your way. Keep an eye out. We've got some news coming to you for a pre-race race that you are going to want to see. The Chase and the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series starts here on Racespot TV, and of course, we talk ourselves about what's going on in terms of Grand Prix racing. McLaren, World's Fastest Gamer. It's only about now 8 days away until Martin Cronkey can get himself even closer to his second world title. That is all we got time for, ladies and gentlemen, here from the Pro Mazda Championship here on Racespot TV and on iRacing Live. Before we go, just going to try and give you a quick update on the points, and we can tell you, coming out of this round, we have ourselves a new championship leader. It is Martin Anoudlis, and get this here, Connery, he now leads the championship by 1 point heading into the final round.
Though that is as fine as the margins can possibly be. This result and has basically just set up this fantastic fight for the championship coming into the later rounds. And well, if we're kind, we can actually broadcast maybe that final race. Who knows? Who knows?
Who knows what's going on next week? Martin Anoudlis, they're coming home with third place today, 1 place ahead of Gabriel Perez. But that is all that mattered. It was a 3-point swing in terms of championship. Anoudlis there, now in first. Gabriel Perez in second. And that's where we're going to leave you. Racespot TV, Pro Mazda Championship, off the air. Connery Maddock, Will Vincent, peace out. Have a great weekend.